Can't believe what I've done. I can't believe it. Bye-bye. Hey, welcome everyone. I almost didn't think this was going to get pulled off today. Having really some technical problems. I think I've got things working, but I trust you to let me know if the sound isn't right, if my audio is what. Oh, can you hear me now? Okay, I think it was working. Let me know if my audio is okay, please. I just want to make sure. Hey, a little bit unusual sort of emphasis today. I did want to tell you, first of all, this is kind of lighthearted, but um, I was going to borrow from Rod Stewart. Oh, it's good? Okay, great. Thank you both. Yeah, I was going to borrow from Rod Stewart. He did an entrance to one of his songs. I don't know if I haven't paid that close attention, so I don't know if he does it all the time. Cheryl, Tobias, and welcome to you. It's great to see you. And Carla Ray, great to see both of you. We're just kind of getting started. This is real lighthearted, but I'm going to play a real short snippet of Rod Stewart, and it's what he does. Notice what he does when he comes out on stage. Okay, so here we go. Did you see that? That little hand flip? You want to see that again? Watch the little hand flip right at the end. His right hand up by his ear. You like that? I thought what I would do is start doing that when I come out and I'm live. Let's see. Here we go. Little hand flip like that. I thought that would be kind of funny. Oh, maybe not. So anyway, that's Rod Stewart. All around good guy, I think, as far as I know. But then, what do I know? So I've got some things lined up, and I actually can bring people up on panel. I've got it set up for Zoom today. You do use Stellar. Yeah, I know. When I try to emulate the great ones, I just pale in comparison. I'm sure it won't work out too well. But I thought it was funny. I thought it was just kind of funny. I'm not sure what he was after with that little hand toss, but I thought it was kind of neat. Like, hey, look, I'm here. Enjoy me. So anyway, I wanted to play for you. You never had, yeah, I haven't either, actually. I've just seen him on television or music videos mostly, which I recommend. I subscribe to YouTube music videos, which I think I haven't found anyone that has more music videos than they have. It's really good. Hey, well, congratulations on that, Angelo. I have written a lot of things and I have yet to put it in a book. It's always been one of my um, goals, but I haven't gotten it done. So congratulations on what you did. I know you have written a variety of, you're eclectic, as they say. You can do poetry, you can do real life issues, and I've seen all of that from you. So, and you write very well. So I'm not surprised that you would be doing a book, and I'm looking forward to hearing more about it, actually. So yeah, that's great, isn't it, Dolly? Yeah. And I don't know if it has anything to do with an issue. It's rather sobering and serious that you and I have talked about before. It certainly would be a book that, if it is, that would be very necessary to tell that story. I think it needs to be told, or it might have something else. But I thank you so much for it. It took me 10 years. Oh my goodness. Yeah, that you're kind of pushing the limits of the record, I think, on that. 10 years is, well, maybe not, maybe not. Um, oh, it is about that. Okay, excellent. Yeah, I'm really glad to hear that. I think that it can be cathartic for not just people reading it, but for the person who wrote the book. And I think that is, well, I don't want to repeat myself, but I think it's an extremely important issue. It was the Achilles heel in the Roman Catholic Church, and really for other churches as well. I know in California they did a study, the percentage of those who are victimized or survivors of child sexual abuse is about the same in their school district as it is in churches. It's about somewhere between 4 and 6%. Um, so, and it's significant enough because one person leaves so many victims, a trail of victims. It's just horrible. So I'm really glad, and I think you close a chapter of the book. I wish it could be closed. I think those deep wounds will always be there for people. I can't imagine how they wouldn't be. You certainly, we can't afford not to remember them, but we don't want to be prisoners or captives of those horrible memories that you should never have had to endure. Had nothing really to do with you, except you were in the wrong place at the wrong time with the wrong people who took advantage of you, as has been done with so many others. Yeah, I was in a religious order, and there were some people I didn't know at the time. Uh, a priest who taught us liturgy, of all things, was shipped out from Ontario to Alberta, and I took a course from him. Had no idea that he was going to end up in prison, which he did, as well as a few other people. You don't only know what you know when you find out, and just horrible. And of course, I won't go on about this, but the great problem was exacerbated by the shifting around the clergy, as I saw. I didn't realize it at the time. Um, and the people that you know, you find out other things about them. And it's just tragic. It's absolutely tragic for everyone, but mostly for the victims, that's for sure. So again, I'm really glad you mentioned that. This is a most extremely important issue, not just within the church and other institutions, it's all over, but it's a critically important issue in society. It's seen as so deplorable that we find on YouTube people throwing around, and they really shouldn't throw it around lightly, and that they're calling other people pedos simply because it's the worst thing they want to do to hurt someone, and they have zero proof for an allegation that is so serious that should never be leveled unless we know, and then when we know, we have to bring that out into the light of day. Dolly says, brave people like you have paved the way for others. That is so true. That is so very true. Um, you know, until it comes out into the open, as you say, it remains, you know, I worked in churches where the rectory, which is the priest's residence, and I say this with 94% of priests that have never offended that we know of, but 6% or so that may have. Still, it's just a trail of tragedy. But putting a rectory right next to a private school with children and just a lightning rod for the worst possible thing you can imagine. I mean, I won't go on about it, but it's just so awful. But finally, justice is starting to happen. It's taking a very long time. I'm sure Angelo knows better than any one of us. I was able to hear one of Angelo's testimonies that he gave, if you don't mind me mentioning, back east where this took place. Um, and it was quite moving. I was very moved by your words, your testimony. I think it was a very important, um, and will be for those who have delayed memory and so many others who the body preserves itself, and our minds are quite proficient about putting things back into I guess a private place where it won't hurt any further a child when a child's been victimized. So, Angelo, I'm just grateful for the courage it took for you to do that and to write that book. I know the wrongs haven't been set right yet. They have not. Vigilum, welcome to you. Good to see you, Phil. Um, but hopefully, some things are so serious and so deeply wounding that they won't be healed until we arrive in our final destination, I guess, back home, as I like to call it. but healing will come one day. And I'm glad that you've worked so hard on doing that. I really appreciate that. And I greatly respect you for what you've done. So, well, I've got something serious. Maybe it's not as serious as that, but something I think it's important. And the title of this, what did I put as the title here? Let's see, I have to slide things over so I can read it. The title is Excellent Connection. That executive disorder is what I made the title as. And we're going to talk a little bit about a couple of the executive orders that may be disordered, at least in the impact it will have to some. Uh, Vigilum is not a problem. If you wouldn't mind reporting to the vice principal's office and getting that hall pass, so you'll get through security and join us when you. And Lady Scrapper, we're going to give you a lifetime pass. You don't need to do that. I'm silly, aren't I? So anyway, I wanted to just go ahead and share with you the Bishop of Washington, D.C., who did the prayer post-inauguration. And I wanted to share that with you, not all of it. It's about, I think it's 13 or 14 minutes in length, which isn't a bad amount of time for a homily. Please, Scott, if you wouldn't mind, that would be wonderful. Oh, Janie, welcome to you. Great to see you. We're just going to talk about some pretty serious topics here. I did want to play about 2.5 minutes or so of the bishop's. Let me find her homily, which was in Washington, D.C., aimed at our country, and certainly some of it was directed toward the executive office. And as soon as I find that for you. Okay, we took care of Rod Stewart. And I'm going to bring this up. It's called A Stitch in Coming. Now, every day they say you should learn a new word. So give Phil a second chance. I guess so. We can do it. We can do it. We'll forget. A Stitch in Coming was something I learned just the other day from one of my brand new favorite scripture scholars. And I'm going to be playing a short, I'm telling you, it's powerful. 4-minute video of his. It's a snippet, but it's really good. And he refers to when he uses somebody else's material that he wants to respond to, he calls it a stitch in coming. Now, my understanding, I didn't know this, a stitch in coming is very popular over on TikTok. I believe it's where it kind of maybe originated from. So I'm going to go ahead and play. Before I play anything, I'm going to share with you a priest. I consider him a friend, though we haven't met. We've talked a little bit online. And he's going to, Reverend Ed. He's from Halifax, Nova Scotia. He's going to share a little bit about the bishop's presentation and how it was presented and how it was received. And then I'm going to play it for you, just a few minutes of it. Okay, so if you don't mind, I'll do that right now.
She was as gentle as a dove, and she was as wise as a serpent, just like Jesus tells us to be. And she asked a person who professes to be a Christian to embrace mercy and compassion. She asks a man who, in his compassion and mercy, had just that day pardoned several hundreds of people who were convicted of the insurrection on January 6th, 2021. He showed them mercy. He showed them compassion. He pardoned them, and he commuted their sentences, including people who committed violent crimes against police officers, who were just simply trying to do their job. She was just asking him to continue to embrace his merciful and compassionate side, and direct that mercy and compassion to people in his nation, people in the United States who right now need it most. People who are absolutely terrified of what the future holds for them. So I'm not entirely certain why these people are so upset. I'm not entirely certain why Christians are so upset that a minister would ask the congregation and the President of the United States in particular to be merciful. But we just read from the First Nations version of the New Testament. And in it, we read that line, "Release us from the things we have done wrong in the same way we release others for the things done wrong to us. Forgive us our trespasses as we forgive those who trespassed against us." If you have a problem with her asking the President of the United States to show mercy and compassion, if you have a problem with her asking the President of the United States to show kindness and respect and dignity towards people in the nation who are feeling terrified, trans kids, LGBTQ plus kids, migrants, documented and undocumented. If that bothers you, because why would we show these people mercy? And again, I've seen lots of comments where it said, we're not supposed to be merciful to sin. Okay. But if that's you, if you're a Christian out there saying she should never have been asking the President to be merciful towards those people because of these reasons, didn't Jesus show you mercy before you deserved it? Didn't Jesus show you mercy before you had earned it? Didn't Jesus show you mercy before you chose to follow him? Because that is how it works. We don't get forgiven because we follow him. We follow him because we're forgiven.
I want to hold on that. Can I ask you real quickly, is there any feedback? I didn't turn my microphone off, and I wanted to make sure it wasn't interfering with that video. Was there any feedback, or can anyone let me know? I just want to make sure that we don't have an echo or anything like that. So, yeah, if someone would just let me know if there's any sound issue that you can hear. Then I won't. No, it sounds good. Okay, thank you. Thank you. I won't turn off my mic then. I have headphones on tonight, so that probably will take care of it. So that's a stitch incoming. Good, thank you. I appreciate the mic check on that. So I'm going to go ahead and play. This is only a couple of 2.5 minutes or so of the bishop's. Actually, it was probably 12 or 13 minutes long. This is the part that I think was controversial to some people. To me, it was at the heart of the gospel. In fact, I want to talk about how it might come as a huge surprise, how it reflects Genesis chapter 19, but we'll get to that. So here is the bishop.
And we need each other. Unity is relatively easy to pray for on occasions of great solemnity. It's a lot harder to realize when we're dealing with real differences in our private lives and in the public arena. But without unity, we're building our nation's house on sand. And with a commitment to unity that incorporates diversity and transcends disagreement, and with the solid foundations of dignity, honesty, and humility that such unity requires, we can do our part and in our time to realize the ideals and the dream of America. Let me make one final plea, Mr. President. Millions have put their trust in you. And as you told the nation yesterday, you have felt the providential hand of a loving God. In the name of our God, I ask you to have mercy upon the people in our country who are scared now. There are gay, lesbian, and transgender children in Democratic, Republican, and independent families, some who fear for their lives. And the people who pick our crops and clean our office buildings, who labor in poultry farms and meat packing plants, who wash the dishes after we eat in restaurants and work the night shifts in hospitals, they may not be citizens or have the proper documentation, but the vast majority of immigrants are not criminals. They pay taxes and are good neighbors. They are faithful members of our churches and mosques, synagogues, wadara, and temples. I ask you to have mercy, Mr. President, on those in our communities whose children fear that their parents will be taken away, and that you help those who are fleeing war zones and persecution in their own lands to find compassion and welcome here. Our God teaches us that we are to be merciful to the stranger, for we were all once strangers in this land. May God grant us the strength and courage to honor the dignity of every human being, to speak the truth to one another in love, and walk humbly with each other and our God for the good of all people in this nation and the world. Amen.
Okay, I have my own thoughts, but I have a little bit more, not a great deal, but I'll share mine toward the end, and then I'd like to invite anyone, if anyone would like to come up on panel, certainly would love to have you do that. We're going to hear from my new favorite scripture scholar. He's a young man. He's well, I don't know, he might be in his 40s, I would think. But he studied in several universities, including Oxford over in England. And I'm trying to think of the other university, southwest of England, where he got his PhD. But he's one of the people that I have found to be, oops, let me restart this. He's going to be responding, stitching, coming to Ben Shapiro, who some of you may have heard of. I had heard of him, I've seen him, but I don't really follow him that closely, who is, you know, kind of one of these people that does a lot of podcasts. I believe he has a degree in law and so on. So I want to hear this, and then this isn't real long, it's only 4 minutes. It'll be a kind of a back and forth. So, and after this, I want to say a little something. And then Bernie Sanders is here as well. So here we go.
This resistance pastor gets up and is going to make herself famous by ripping into Donald Trump and J.D. Vance the day after the inauguration.
All right, let's see it.
And she's going to do so by spewing absolute nonsense wokeness.
A plea for mercy for the most vulnerable in our society is not nonsense wokeness. It is a repeated and consistent message of Jesus's throughout the New Testament. And this was a sermon
about both trans kids who don't exist.
Trans kids indisputably exist, and denying their humanity and their existence is grotesquely hateful and stupid.
Okay, when I say they don't exist, I mean that there may be kids with gender dysphoria.
So trans kids.
But the notion that a child knows that their body is not in line with their sex is ridiculous.
So you're obviously struggling to comprehend the difference between sex and gender, which means you don't have the first clue what you're talking about. You're not an expert on this, and it's very clearly not your prerogative to declare how other people are allowed to experience the world around them and themselves within it. So you would be doing the world a favor if you would just shut the hell up and let the adults do the talking.
On his face, she spews nonsense about trans children.
She said they're scared, which is an indisputable reality, and she pled for mercy, which is her Christianity speaking. None of that is spewing nonsense. Not knowing the difference between sex and gender and pretending that trans kids don't exist is hateful and harmful nonsense that you just spewed.
And about illegal immigrants, and suggest that if President Trump wishes to emulate the values of Jesus, then he must abandon his entire political agenda.
If drawing from the words of Jesus to plead to our nation's most elite for mercy on behalf of trans kids and undocumented immigrants means one must abandon their entire political agenda, then their entire political agenda is trash.
I noticed that Jesus was not in favor of free migration across all borders.
No, you didn't. You made that up because there's no part of any record associated with Jesus that says anything about this, because they did not have concepts of restricting travel across borders anciently. If you traveled into a new area, you might be subject to new laws. You might be disadvantaged when it came to natives in the area. You might have new taxes that you had to pay, but there was no attempt on the parts of sovereigns to restrict the crossing of borders. So no, you didn't notice that. You made it up.
You're going to have to show me where in the Bible he was in favor of that. And I certainly know that Jesus was not in favor of the idea that boys and girls are the same and are interchangeable and boys can become girls.
You certainly know absolutely no such thing whatsoever. The New Testament is overwhelmingly silent on this issue because it just wasn't salient for the authors of the Gospels. You're just making stuff up. But given that you don't even have a firm grip on how people are discussing these issues today, you certainly don't have the foggiest idea how they were discussing them 2,000 years ago. You don't know what it means that in the Gospel of Matthew, Jesus is represented as praising as more righteous those who make themselves eunuchs for the kingdom of heaven. So you don't even begin to have the first clue how they discussed issues of sex and gender and the mutability or immutability of those characteristics in the ancient world. The only thing that is clear from this little histrionic display is that you have no business talking outside of the confines of your own household. You need to just sit a few plays out and, again, let the grown-ups talk. And the fit for this video has been Dale Keown's Incredible Hulk.
Okay, there we go. I would, if I haven't, I don't think I did. I'll put a link to his YouTube channel. He is extremely powerful, convincing, persuasive. He knows his field very, very well. I thought I knew my field until I ran across this guy. And but he is very much competent in ancient biblical Hebrew and Koine Greek, the language of the New Testament, and has a real way with words. He doesn't mince any, let's put it that way. But I did want to talk about sort of a follow-up, and then I have a Bernie Sanders clip that's very short at the end. I guess I could put myself up here. Hi, that's me. So I want to talk a little bit about executive orders. They go on all the time. I remember there back in, I think it was 64 when, let's see, who was the president that followed up after the assassination? The Texas vice president of John F. Kennedy, LBJ, right? LBJ. Seeds to Freedom. I'll be dang or damn even. Hey, great to see you. Would everyone please welcome Seeds to Freedom? He is a very dear soul from Australia, the land down under. He's been in Boyd since it was first hatched in the mountains of West Virginia or somewhere. And Seeds to Freedom is a terrific guy, he and his wife, and I'm so glad to see them here. And he's a real homespun, wisdom-filled individual, and he has my utmost respect. He's a great guy. So there you have it. I'm so glad he's here. But executive orders, I was going to say, LBJ issued one having to do with with being able to maintain sort of some racial justice within the country, as we were just kind of getting our bearing and our feet wet doing that. And that executive order is, and some of it is in peril today. That's why I'm mentioning it. But just because you can issue an executive order doesn't mean you probably should. They have to be done very reflectively and not done as they have been just in the last few days impulsively. It's not a power trip, or it shouldn't be. The use of an executive order is for the benefit or beneficence of society in general, not anything self-indulgence, and certainly not for revenge and not for a power trip. But anyway, Trump did pardon and release, and we've heard that a couple of times, every single person that was criminally found guilty through our justice system, primarily for violating essentially the Constitution. And right after he took the oath to defend the Constitution, that was done. Apparently, I found this interesting. I didn't actually even see it, but I was told this, maybe some of you did, that President Trump did not place his hand on the Bible. And if that's so, then the silence from the evangelicals is deafening. I don't know why he didn't do that. But the bishop who we just heard from, and her plea for mercy and kindness and charity for the refugees trying to escape war-torn civil strife areas. Sometimes it's internal war of drugs and drug lords and the violence on the streets, and many of them are running from that. The death threats that are happening, they're all very real. And it was asked of President Trump, and sadly it was not received, I don't think, in the spirit from which it was given, which was right out of the gospel, Matthew chapter 25. What you do to the least of these, and the people entering our country are certainly not coming here, on luxury yachts. They're coming here as poor people escaping persecution. Now, I know the issue of today, I blocked one troll. People who object but want to see what Trump's doing, this is a situation of fear. This is my view. I could be wrong, but I believe it seems obvious that fear is rampant in our country. And some people, a middle class that's sliding not upward but downward, may be a part of the reason for that. The fear of slipping down the social ladder, as it were. I should be reading the side chat here. Larry Bird was the force behind LBJ wearing civil rights. Yeah, Lady Bird. Yeah. Larry Bird was a great basketball player. Lady Bird. Thank you, Angela. Jenny says he has no understanding of the Constitution. Yeah, I think that's part of the problem, is that we badly need better informed politicians. I don't think he's alone. And whether he understands it or not, I think it's within his capability to understand, but whether he would want to do that. There are some saying that he wants to change the Constitution significantly, and I heard this today, that he would like to put aside the two-term presidency and make it a three-term. Seeds to Freedom says the irony of people who elected Trump will be the ones who will be his demise. Yes, and I'm glad you mentioned that, because part of the message you're hearing in the media today, I think, is a lot of the states that have suffered badly, North Carolina, South Carolina, with the hurricanes that came through and the flooding and the terrible disaster. And then we had the fires in California. So both sides of the country, and tornadoes in between, I'm sure. Um, People are saying, well, FEMA didn't do a good job. I certainly think President Trump has said that. I've heard him say it a couple of times. When in fact the governors of both those states I mentioned, the Carolinas, and other states have insisted that FEMA and the president responded immediately and quickly. And also the idea that FEMA ran out of money. Right now, as of 10 days ago, they had $27 billion at their disposal. So I don't think they're out of money. So we need to fact check. We need to get good information. And that's the big concern I have, is that the American public is not necessarily going to get that right now in this term, but we will see. Angela says if Biden had not placed his hand on the Bible, he would have been. Yeah, I think he would have gone up one side and down the other. She tried 2 times to get that. Scott, I've got to watch that. I'm sure it's available somewhere. I need to view that. I'm not sure. Maybe it wasn't. He has his own line of Bibles, I understand. Maybe it wasn't one of those. I don't know what the reason. I don't know why he would not want to do that. He didn't want to touch his favorite book. Yeah, I don't know, because reading it is one thing, understanding it's a whole other thing. It's very important. He's surrounded by certain church people who are favorable to what's known as Christian nationalism. Now, Christian nationalism, I did a video about that, and it has been condemned by the National Council of Churches. And I'm just saying that we need to understand what that ball of wax is, because it's pretty scary, Christian nationalism. And I believe that the president is surrounded by people with that agenda. And maybe I'll talk a little bit about that. Yeah, and I think Cash, you're right, that we need certainly someone younger. I remember when John F. Kennedy became president, so vividly. I thought, my God, we're going to get a young man who's not much older than me, and sure enough, he was elected. And I think that fresh ideas come from young people, and there's a lot of reason to hope. I happened to learn about, and I've listened to, and I have great admiration for, a young congressman from Texas. If I can think of his name, I'd like to share him, or maybe I'll link when this is all over with. He has been another breath of fresh air. He has been a voice of compassion, but a voice of challenge as well, right? Comfort the afflicted, afflict the comfortable. We need both. Yeah, there's a lot to pick from, Scott. I think you're absolutely right. And Janie, the Constitution is the foundation of everything that we stand for and believe in. And they knew exactly what they were doing, I believe, when they made sure that someone wasn't sitting in as a king or a dictator for their entire life. And 2 terms is long enough, regardless of how good they may be. So. Let's see. Okay, yeah, good to. I'm going to look back at that, Scott. Part of the deal. I hope that wasn't the other one. Yeah. Bernie has something to say. There's one thing he left out, but he talks about the things that were left out by President Trump that he hasn't mentioned. And I do want to let you listen to Bernie say, and then I have some thoughts of my own. Angela said they have their personal Bible and Lincoln Bible used when, yeah, that's right. We're sworn in. It's not technically a requirement to swear on a Bible for office of president. Now that I did not know. I appreciate your sharing that with us. I think it's probably what's known as a tradition. I don't know if it's an unbroken tradition. It's certainly something in my memory. I'm an old guy of 75. I always remember the hand going on the Bible, which is a beautiful symbol that, I love Jimmy Carter. I will never lie to you. And as far as I know, he didn't lie to the American public. Melania was allowed. That's the Lincoln Bible. Thomas Jefferson and Calvin Coolidge did not use a Bible. Oh, okay. Well, and Jefferson, I don't know about Coolidge, but Jefferson was a deist. I don't think he was a Christian by namesake. And correct me if I'm wrong about that, but I believe he was a believer in God, but I think he was a deist. Bernie may be older, but yes, he does. Fresh ideas and energy. Yeah, I hope he hangs around as long as Jimmy Carter did, if not longer. Few have used other books. There are only the two. Okay. Technically, he was already sworn in, held to that oath as a former. Oh, well, maybe that's a very interesting, it didn't occur to me. Thank you, Scott. It may have been one reason why it might have been more of an option if you've done it in a previous. It's pretty rare when you're elected president and then you do not get elected and then you get reelected. It's usually consecutive. Scott says, I'll take my oath on a Bible and my mom's recipe book. That's good. Okay, so before we hear from Bernie Sanders, I did want to, which is really powerful, by the way, I did want to share with you a couple of my thoughts. And so I don't know if you feel like I do, but I thought the bishop was very gentle. I thought she was very kind. Her voice, her demeanor, the way she came across, I thought was, I don't know how you could improve on it. But the words, of course, they are challenging. There's no question about that. But I think even presidents need challenge, right? Even presidents. But I believe it was done with the utmost respect. Now, the rest of the story is being written. What will happen to struggling American consumer citizens, you and I, right? What's already happening to the poor. Bernie's going to mention some statistics that'll kind of rock your insides. It's pretty frightening. But people have to decide, and this isn't the first time it's been going on, but it's getting worse because the separation between those who have wealth, and Bernie mentions that as well, and those who do not, is continuing to increase. What will happen to struggling American citizens that have to decide on medication or bread? Well, some might go without one or the other, and some might have to go without both. There are a lot of changes coming predicted by experts in this area, that things are going to be a lot worse, and particularly for people who are from the states that generally need public assistance, or I should say, maybe more accurately, that generally need assistance from the government, and not just state government, federal assistance. And we're talking about a swath of states throughout the East Coast, Central East Coast, and down through the Southeast as well. And a lot of it has to do with the horrific weather, the hurricanes coming through Florida and stretching all Texas gets badly hit at times, as well as all states in between. And then, as we know, Virginia's were hit as well more recently. So, but these are the states that voted for Trump, and these are the states that, and Trump has been talking about getting rid of FEMA, and yet they're going to, you'll hear, I believe I hope I have the right one. These FEMA responses were immediate, and FEMA has done a wonderful job. So hopefully FEMA is not done away with. So what's going to be written? What's the rest of the story? Well, trade talks and tariffs. I think rightly so. People are worried about what that is going to result in. What's the long range effect and impact on consumers? Higher prices will be paid by someone because the tariffs are going to, if you hook on a 10% or 20% tariff, whatever it will end up being, you're going to pay for that. Ultimately, in the end, we will. Someone's going to end up paying for that. And then, of course, the issue of the deportation of refugees, and a lot of times the refugees are oftentimes the ones who are taking entry-level jobs that a lot of Americans just simply will not take. And they're paying taxes. I read some statistics about that a while ago. And they're paying into Social Security, even though they may never be the beneficiary of Social Security, they're still paying into it. Jake, welcome to you. Good to see you. I haven't been looking at side chat. I've been just caught up in my own little presentation here. Yeah, Bernie did a great talk. It might be. I hope it's the same one you're talking about. See, Janie says Trump sees any idea outside his own as a personal attack. Yeah, the concern I have is this isn't about, you can plea mercy, as the bishop did, better than probably anybody I can imagine could possibly do, including maybe even Martin Luther King Jr. I mean, she really did a beautiful job. And it doesn't mean anybody is going to listen to it if their main focus is themselves. And Janie, I think that's what you're saying. It's about a person. It's not about you and me. And it's certainly not about the poor. It's about a person. Yeah, Scott says tariffs always trickle down to the consumer. It's passed down, and that's what will happen. The tariffs are paid by companies in the United States. People mistakenly think they're paid by, the goods that are being imported from China, for example. The Chinese company aren't paying that. The companies that are here to import Chinese goods, that are actually here in the United States, they're paying for that, and they may have to. They certainly where there's a certain level of income that one would expect, and that will have to go up when tariffs are going to be appointed. So that will end up being paid by the consumer, and then higher prices is inflation, is it not? Angela says, interesting. John Quincy Adams used a book of law, and Teddy Roosevelt did not use any book. How about that? Yes, the importer, exactly, Janie. The importer will pay the tariff, who is a company right here in the United States, and they're importing. And the idea, of course, is which has been tried before and failed, is that if the people importing goods can't afford to keep those business, then locally owned businesses, like Ford Motor Company or Chevy or whoever, even though cars are built, transmissions are made in Canada. I mean, cars are little pieces are made everywhere. But primarily are GMC in Detroit. So you've got local businesses that they think will benefit from tariffs because people will buy more American goods. Well, that hasn't proven to be true. American goods tend to be maybe better quality, but they're also far more expensive. So adding on expense to this isn't good. Yeah, the third term, I was mentioning that earlier as well, Angela, and that would be a change in the Constitution. He will not be able to say that by executive order at all, but it'll have to be a change in the Constitution. 6%, okay. See, TEMA orders should be placed. That's right. Yeah. But you always think, well, I bought everything I'll ever need and I won't have to buy anything further. And then Christmas comes and you go, oh, well, I do need to get a few. Yeah. We always have to buy something. And chocolate comes from the Ivory Coast. Chocolate comes from, what's that country in South America? And so we're going to import some things. Really good chocolate comes from Belgium. So we have to bring in things from elsewhere. We don't have it all here. Suppose we could survive, but that isn't, I don't think, what good trade policies are made of. Evelyn, welcome to you. Is Evelyn? Yeah, here. Yeah, I know, Evelyn. I think people are standing up. I think people are doing it right away. I think that has to have a concomitant effect in the right direction. I don't know if you were able to hear much of what we showed earlier. It's very good. I think for anyone coming in to go back to the beginning once this is all over with, and I think it would be to your benefit. There are some things that we can hold on to that we should be positive about. But I mentioned about the deportation of refugees. As I say, they're the ones that are taking entry-level jobs that a lot of Americans won't do. Some do, but a lot of them don't. And as I say, the taxes they pay help to continue to make Social Security solvent, which isn't a bad thing. And they're not going to necessarily benefit when they retire if they're not citizens, but they're paying into the tax system nonetheless. So they do contribute. It's actually quite significant. I did not realize how much. So that's a significant amount of taxation that we will not have if people end up being deported in great numbers, and we will see. But the viability of Social Security is going to be affected. A lot of things are. The businesses, for example, that have crops that use foreign labor to pick. In Washington State, where I live, we have a lot of fruit. We have a lot of strawberries and different types of berries that foreign labor is involved in the production and harvesting of that, and there will be rising prices. So we will see it from one end to the other. I'm also concerned about the elimination of the DEI, and the Department of Education apparently has taken action to eliminate it. DEI is diversity, equity, and inclusion, that initiative. Unbelievable. And it has done so much good. I was reading, let's see, Walmart, McDonald's, what's the large chain that has the big red ball? Target, among others. Target, McDonald's, Walmart, and others. They have gone along and have discontinued their DEI programs, which were set up to help bring people into the workforce. Why wouldn't we want that? I don't want people deciding that they're unable to get into the workforce and they decide to have a life of crime. Who would want that? I think that's money well spent. And then there's a new executive order that lays out a plan to erase transgender people's existence under the law, in a way. You know, and we've had a wave of attacks against transgendered people over the years, and women as well, and those who support these causes, anti-transgendered politicians, right? We have plenty of them now. And apparently, this is the number I've read, $215 million on ad scapegoating trans people. And that's all falls within that Project 2025 that President Trump said he did not even know what that was. Evelyn says, Cass, when he pardoned those who participated in January 6th, are not even 24 hours after, he communicated with all of us that this is all about him, not the country. Yeah, and with the pardon of people who broke the law, some ended up the death of a policeman defending the Capitol, defending the Constitution, and to pardon people who were convicted according to law, and yet showing them mercy, all of them, every last one of them, but no mercy for people who are here with families to save their lives. Scott says, only because when you choose people based on what they are and not their skills, yeah, merit, it makes a checkbox game. Yeah, you know, sometimes it's fair to say the system's been rigged. It has been rigged. Even IQ tests are constructed by people who are generally Caucasian, who have an educational system that reflects that same thing, because, you know, if our system is designed by a certain group of people, it's going to reflect that advantage to that same group of people. So back to this attacks against transgendered people. They're spending a lot of money to do that. They're going to roll back reproductive freedom and punish people for, you know, gender roles that they call, you know, there's no, it's all binary, and it's really sad to see. So if you go back in 2020, the Supreme Court issued a 6-3 ruling affirming that discrimination against someone because they're LGBTQ is actually sexual discrimination. And that's part of Title VIII of the Civil Rights Act that was mentioned by LBJ in 1964. So they want to roll some of that back. I don't know if they'll make that, if that'll happen. I certainly hope not. And Trump also withdrew an executive order that Biden had directing federal agencies to enforce court rulings to the laws that prohibited sexual discrimination. I can't imagine anybody in 2025 would be in favor of letting sexual discrimination take place in this country. I just like shake my head wondering what planet am I living on? Did we just go back in time to the 1800s? So I'm going to get something to drink here. I'm running on, but I'm going to play you Jimmy Carter. All right. Let me line that up. Sorry. Bernie Sanders. Here we go.
I was at the Trump inauguration yesterday, and needless to say, I disagree with much of what he had to say. But what really struck me, however, is not what he said, which was not surprising given his rhetoric, but what he didn't say, The simple truth is that Donald Trump gave a major speech, the first speech of his second presidency, and ignored virtually every important issue facing the working families of this country. How crazy is that? Our healthcare system is broken, is dysfunctional, and it's wildly expensive. Not one word from Trump about how he is going to address the healthcare crisis. We pay by far the highest prices in the world for prescription drugs, sometimes 10 times more than the people in other countries. And 1 out of 4 Americans are unable to afford the prescriptions that their doctors prescribe. Not one word in his speech on the high cost of prescription drugs. We have 800,000 Americans who are homeless, and millions of people spending 50 or 60% of their limited income on housing. We have a major housing crisis in America. Everybody knows it. And Trump, in his inaugural address, did not devote one word to it. Today in America, we have more income and wealth inequality than we have ever had. The wealthiest 3 people in America now own more wealth than the bottom half of our society. But Trump had nothing to say, not one word, about the growing gap between the very rich and everybody else. And maybe, just maybe, that's because he had those 3 people, the 3 wealthiest people in our country, sitting right behind them at his inauguration. And I should add that those 3 people, if you can believe it, and this really is unbelievable, saw their wealth increase by more than $233 billion since the November elections. How's that? $233 billion increase in wealth for the 3 wealthiest people. No wonder they were sitting right behind Donald Trump at his inauguration. They couldn't be happier. During his inaugural speech, Trump did not have one word to say about how we're going to address the planetary crisis of climate change. The last 10 years have been the warmest years ever recorded, and extreme weather disturbances and natural disasters are taking place all over the world, from Los Angeles to India, across Europe to North Carolina. Not one word from Trump about climate change, except, of course, to make it clear that he intends to make this horrific situation even worse with drill, baby, drill. Just brilliant. In the coming months and years, our job is not just to respond to every absurd statement that Donald Trump makes. Our job is to stay focused on the issues that are of importance to the working families of our country, and in fact are widely supported by the American people. Let me just mention a few of them. Yes, healthcare is a human right, and we must join every other major country in guaranteeing healthcare to all people through a Medicare for All single-payer program. Healthcare is a human right. Yes, we must take on the greed of Big Pharma and substantially lower the cost of prescription drugs in this country. Yes, we must build millions of units of affordable housing and low-income housing. Yes, we must make sure that all of our young people have the ability to get a higher education by making public colleges and universities tuition free. Yes, we must work with the global community to combat climate change by cutting carbon emissions and transforming our energy system away from fossil fuel and into sustainable energy. Yes, we must pass legislation to raise the absurdly low federal minimum wage of $7.25 an hour to a living wage of $17 an hour. Anybody who works 40 hours a week in this country should not be living in poverty. Yes, we must pass the PRO Act and make it easier for workers to join trade unions and grow the trade union movement in America. Yes, in order to help fund the needs of working families in this country, we must demand that the wealthiest people in this country, including those individuals sitting right beside Donald Trump at his inaugural, start paying their fair share of taxes. Yes, we must end a corrupt campaign finance system which allows a handful of billionaires to buy elections and move us rapidly into an oligarchic form of society. Bottom line, as we enter the new Trump presidency, we have got to remain focused. We cannot panic. No matter how many executive orders he signs, and no matter how many absurd statements he makes, our goal remains the same. We have got to educate, we have got to organize, we've got to put pressure on Congress to do the right things. And by the way, with Republicans only holding a 3 or 4 seat advantage in the House, we can stop them time and time again if we are organized. Finally, my friends, we have got to fight to create an America based on economic, social, racial, and environmental justice. That's what we've got to work on. Let's go forward. Let's do it. Thank you.
Okay, that was Bernie. We all know that. Boy, he is so succinct, right? He just gets right to the point. And all of those omissions that were not addressed, the things that really America needs to look at, I think he pointed them out very, very well. Jake says, I don't get it. For years, Americans have said this, they fear this, and you have guns and rights, et cetera, et cetera. Now this stuff happening and you're doing, well, you know, I think it's the fear of, yeah, we have plenty of guns, and yet the fear is still that we don't have enough, or that we won't be able to withstand the criminal element. You know, the boogeyman is a real thing in our imagination, at least, whether it's real in life. Certainly there's violence in society, but I think everything in perspective. Scott mentioned I did miss where the school shooters would be labeled as domestic terrorists. He signed executive order. Yeah, I did. I don't know about that. He may have. Let's see. Oh, Brian St. John, welcome to you. Good to see you. Good to see you. Glad you're here. Yeah, things are shooting up, and I think that we're concerned about a lot of the executive orders that are going to affect people directly. I would like to have seen a bold statement about, you know, putting caps on pharmaceutical prices. I think that would be a true and genuine change and movement in the right direction for Americans. Is this not a rogue government? Yeah, Jake, you know, that's very hard to say. I think we're going to know very soon. It started off looking that way. I think it's very disconcerting. I think Bernie pretty well laid out the things that were omitted that really the people in the United States want addressed and are not being addressed. For the sake of our children, we're going to have to someday We can't just drill, drill, drill. We're going to have to be concerned about the air we breathe and the water we drink, and whether or not this planet will be sustainable for the next 100 years. And our grandchildren and their children are the ones at stake. So, none of that's being addressed. That's all being put aside for what appears to me to be profit. Let's see. I want to mention something about the people that are going to be deported if Trump does what he says he's going to do. And I assume that that's what he has every intention of doing. I think the Bishop of Washington, D.C. put out the plea in as gentle a way, but as clear a way as possible. I want to connect it to a chapter in the Bible, Genesis chapter 19. And I'm going to tell you why I'm using that chapter. It's the story of Sodom and Gomorrah. Sodom has been badly misunderstood by most people and by the church as well. And scripture scholars are trying to make a dent into that ignorance, but we really need to understand it as it was intended to be understood by the authors. The story in Genesis 19 has to do with people who were traveling. They were travelers, much like we have people coming to this country. And they were going to be outside. And Lot was the man who decided to help them. And he gave them shelter. There are people here looking for shelter. And what happened was the townspeople heard about these people who were in town. They were afraid of them. This is where fear comes in. And that great fear, demon of fear, overtook the townspeople. They thought they might be people from other countries that are their enemies and would take back as spies, and they would take back information. And they might, and legitimately, there were people who did that, who were spies. These two were not in that category. And that is the great objection. There's a story, a powerful story in the Sadducee writings. And I'll share it with you. What happened was, it's pretty grotesque, but a woman was known for her charity, and she would take a big jug of filled with bread and food for the poor and for visitors. And she'd take it every day outside of town to help these people. Well, when the news got out that she was doing that, they took her and they tied her up and they poured honey all over her. And of course, the hornets in the area came and devoured her body. That's what fear will do. Fear will kill. And the townspeople where Lot was in Genesis 19 were so filled with fear, they wanted to kill these two visitors. They didn't know who they were. They wanted to know them, which means they wanted to rape them. Now, the whole town was there. You're not going to convince anybody that the whole town was gay. Of course, they're not all gay. They didn't even have that as a concept at the time. So in Genesis 19, Lot is trying to save those two visitors and protect them, like some people in this country are trying to protect the people who are here from harm. Rape is the ultimate form of inhospitality, right? And then sending them away to a fate, we don't want to see what that is, back to a country where they have violence and civil war and all kinds of drug-related violence as well. Well, the two travelers in Genesis 19 were given sanctuary and hospitality in Lot's home in Sodom, but they threatened him, right? They demanded these two men be removed and they have their way with them. And that's what's happening here. We want these people out, like those men in Sodom. We wanted the visitors out of our country. Migrants fleeing for their lives that have come here with families in tow, being removed from America, right? We are like Sodom, like it or not. We're very much like Sodom. We are Sodomites. I'll say it. America, we are Sodomites if we send these people away. We need to pray, all of us, for our president, members of Congress and our local community leaders as well, to try to find real solutions for those people that are most at risk, right? So for now, one thing I'm going to continue to do and highly recommend other people do as well, because we're finding out that things are not as they seem. We need to fact check. It's absolutely urgent that we fact check our political leaders. And I don't have them in underneath the. I will link them to you when this is done. But I can come up with at least a dozen. They're absolutely free, easily located organizations such as Open Secrets, Duke Reporters Fact Checking from Duke University. Some of these you've heard of, PolitiFact, factcheck.org. The Washington Post has a fact checker. Everyone's heard of Snopes, right? Snopes. Duke Reporters Lab, let's see. SciCheck is another one. FlackCheck, F-L-A-C-K. I'll put all these in a link for you. Media Bias is another one. The NPR has one, has a fact check. So there's plenty of them. And I think it's very important that we simply don't swallow things as a gullible person would, but put things out there, test it, like gold in the heat. Find out what it really is. Find out who's saying what. And is it, there are people saying things on the left, there are people saying things on the right, all extreme sides, and people saying things somewhere in the middle. We have available to us a tremendous amount of resources to be able to get good information and accurate information. One of the things when people ask me, Joe, what was the big deal about going to school in college? The most important thing about a higher education is learning where to look for good information, accurate information, truthful information, good resources, right? Good places to search that are not iffy, questionable, that aren't believable. We need to have a way to find good information. And when we do, I will believe that I think most Americans have common sense, and hopefully they will respond to the right information. We've got a lot of information coming from St. Petersburg in Russia, where the troll factory is. It's been hugely influential in our own society, and they're influencing European voting and the outcome in other places as well. So I'll leave those links. Evelyn, where is that even? if you Google fact check organizations, but I'll go ahead and link them when this is over with underneath the title bar of this live stream. So I think it's extremely important. I subscribe to something else too. I subscribe to something called Ground News. I'll put it in the side chat here. Ground News. And what Ground News has is it gives you, say in what we're looking at today, right? We're looking at the issues of executive decisions. It'll give you the left, it'll give you the view on the right, and it'll give you all kinds of views in the middle. And so you can go to these sources, hear all sides. Now, isn't that unique? Where do you get all sides represented? Well, that's what I'm talking to you about right now. It's called Ground News. Okay, it's really worth looking into. So, okay, so Janie says, Scott, I want the job of map changer. Shuffle. Yeah, Greenland, Canada. I don't think they realized Mexico, possibly. I don't think any of that's a reality, obviously. I mean, I guess you can change the Gulf of Mexico to the Gulf of America, but, I don't think a name is necessarily any, constitutive change. Evelyn says, Janie, while you're at it, can you change the map back? Gerrymandering effed it up, that's for sure. I feel sick that Trump is going to, yeah, President Joe. Well, it's sad because I think Joe Biden has been gracious. He hasn't been a pushover. But I do think that age caught up with him, and I think Trump is not far behind. We don't need bullying in our politics. We need people who are gracious and willing to speak the truth. And if you want the truth, you're going to have to listen to all sides of it. That's why I so highly recommend Ground News as a source that provides all the sides of it. Pebbles, welcome to you. Good to see you. Glad that you're here. So I'm not sure I have much else to share with you. I learned a new word, and I'll put it up here. Stitch incoming, right? So now we know what stitch incoming comes from. I believe that was originated with TikTok. Stitch incoming. And we heard from Rod Stewart. So from now on, when I begin my little live streams and all my videos, let me show you what I'm going to do. I'm going to do this just for you guys because I love you all. See me here? I'm going to do the Rod Stewart hand flip, which I have no clue what that means. But I thought it was kind of awesome what he did. I thought that was kind of cool. So, so we did that, a little bit of fun. And then you saw a slew of videos that I think gave us kind of the other side of things, because now we're getting the perspective of one side. And I think it's important to get the other side. And you got that, I hope, today. So if anybody wants to come up on panel, I've set this up with Zoom. So I'll send you a Zoom link and you can Zoom right up here. Let me get the heck off here. If anybody does want to come up, I'm not sure anybody does, but if you do, it'll look something like this. There I am in the middle, even smaller. And then when other people come up, you'll be in those little 4 black dots, or boxes, I should say. And then when you talk, you'll go into the big box. You don't have to have your camera on at all. I can turn my camera off and be merciful, speaking of mercy. But the person who's speaking it'll rotate according to the voice. Did I miss purple? Shout out to the purple. Is purple Pebbles? Yeah, I'm way behind. I'm on all these things. So, but we also heard from, what did we hear from? Reverend Ed, the Episcopal priest in Halifax, Nova Scotia. I'm going to link you to all of this stuff if it's something you enjoyed. And my favorite new theologian, who we heard from as well, who went back and forth with Ben Shapiro. And then we heard from Bernie Sanders. So you got a little bit of everything. Is there anybody out there that wants to come up on panel? If you do, I'd be happy to give you a link. You got to find the links here. I'm not sure anybody wants to. I have trouble getting people to come up. I don't know why. Let's see. Zoom Manager. I'm just trying to. I think all you'll need, if anybody does want to come up, I think all you'll need is the link I can drop in the side chat. And it should be the same link for everyone. Let me see if that's going to work. Should end with 9.1. Just give me 1 minute. Oh, no, that didn't work. Hold on. I have to try that again. Be awful if I can't get you the link. Zoom Manager. Let's see. Oh, there we go. I think this should work. If anybody wants to come up on panel, let me take this off just to protect myself until I find out who's coming up, if that's okay, just to be on the safe side. So if anybody wants to come up on panel, anybody can click the same link, Let me put all the audios on here. So you'll be heard if you come up and say anything. I don't have much to say, but I can. Oh, yeah. Well, it'd be great if it worked. I hope it will. It should follow the speaker's voice, and that voice would be the one that highlights in the middle. At least I think I got it to work. This will be the dry run here. If you are up, if you click on the link and you're up, just say something. And oh, I might have to assign you. Hold on. Let me assign you to. Yes, I think I have to assign you to, which is like letting you in, I guess. So hold on one second. Let me see. I don't think anybody's up here yet. So is anybody gonna click that link? It's an option. It's not a requirement, but feel free. And let me know if you're going to do that so I can make sure I see you. No, I don't think you'll have to. Well, I don't know. I guess we're going to find that out, Scott. I don't know if they have to. It's not much. It's like a very small file. If there is, there may be. I'm just not sure. You know, I bought into Zoom a long time ago. Then I forgot I had it, and I never learned how to use it. So I'm trying to catch up and figure out how to use it. I have two options. I can send out links from this software, which is vMix. Oh, you're trying now? Okay, I'll check and see if you come up. So far, I don't see anybody. Yeah, let me know if you're up, if you're in, or if you've clicked it. You might, when you click it, you might have to. There may be some couple of little things you have to click on before you get inside. I'm not sure. Oh, okay, Scott's in. Okay, Scott, you're admitted. Let me see if I can get you assigned a place here. 1 second, Scott. I'm putting you in Zoom number 50. Zoom number 50. Okay, let me bring us up here. Oh, and then Jenny's here too. Let me assign. Well, here, just give me 1 second. 1 second here. So many things to do. My small mind is having trouble figuring out how to do them. Okay. All right. Scott's in, and let me bring in Jenny. Oh, I'm using, oh, sorry, I use your, okay. Scott? Okay,
Hey, hello. How you doing?
good.
Can you hear me?
We can hear you. Say something else. Okay, good. Did everybody hear him say something else? Because I turned his audio. I think I have to have his audio back. I'm not sure. Janie, are you in here? Yes, you
There you
are.
are.
Scott, can you check and see whether your YouTube audio is on or off?
I have mine off. Like I paused your stream from YouTube.
Okay. I'm hearing a little bit of echo from you. I didn't hear any from Janie, but and it might be my issue here. Okay, Janie, I just admitted you into the room. I don't know if you're in twice. Yeah, that didn't sound good. Let me look. Hold on. Don't say anything. Let me check. We'll figure this out. 1 sec. I thought this was going to be so slick. Yeah, I'm hearing. I didn't hear you have any feedback the first time, but I'm hearing you have feedback this time. And it's probably me. It's probably. I'm looking. Let me look in the triggers here and see what's going on. And your YouTube side is turned off, I assume. Okay. All right.
Well, there are two of her up here, right?
Scott, say that again. I'm sorry.
There are two of her up there, right? Is that maybe the problem?
It might be, and I need to find out where she's in twice. That's probably what it is.
There, she's gone now. Now there's just one of her.
Excellent. Okay. Janie, are you still here? The other one of you? Janie?
Am I still here?
Yes, I hear you.
Okay. Which one am I now, Jenny or Jamie?
I'm not sure.
You're Jenny right now.
Okay. I don't care if anyone knows my real name. What happened is it opened in an app and then it also opened in my browser. So I signed in under Janie in the browser and didn't realize that the app side opened too.
I'm echoing now. Well, how about that? Damn it. Hold on.
I don't hear the echo now, but
You don't?
everybody sounds good so far on my end.
Evelyn, you still hear an echo? At least the rotating box is working. Let me see if I can fix this.
Yeah, you're in here too, twice.
I'm in here twice?
Yeah. You're under Stellar now. Stellar 911.
Well, we can't have that. That's probably why I'm.
Yeah, because I was acting when I was in here twice.
Thank you. I'm glad you told me.
Hang in there, people. We'll get it together.
Oh. Well, are you guys? Go ahead and chat, and I'll try to get rid of myself here. I think I can.
Don't do it, Stellar. Don't do it. Yeah, we're here. It sounds good on my end right now. Janie, say something.
Master. Hola.
Hello.
Am I muted? I'm still here.
You're here.
I don't know if I was muted.
If you
sound
had
low
your
right
icon, then it would be showing up in the box in the middle. Yeah, Janie is super quiet. You know, I need to work on this, and maybe what I should do is have you go out and then I'll send you another link. Would that be all right?
Sounds good to me.
Okay.
Me too.
Scott?
You mean leave too?
Yeah, let's all jump off.
All right.
Okay, can you guys hear me all right? Sorry about that, Cass. Is my audio working? I think it should be. Let's see. Let me know if you can hear me. There's a God in heaven. Now you can hear me? Good. Okay, excellent. Okay, I dropped a couple of links. Let me put some audio on those links and see whether we have. Okay, Janie and Scott, are you both there?
I
Am I
am
here?
here.
Ah, you're both there. Excellent.
Yay!
And I don't hear any echoing. So what I have to tell you is that means that the problem with Zoom ends up in my lap. Joe, bad Joe. So my apology. I have to work out the kinks in that.
That's always the fun part. I like doing that part.
I was gonna say, sounds kinky.
Yeah, we better not go there. I'm in enough trouble, that's for sure.
I know, right? Me too.
Well, I don't know. I think it needs to be said. I think that compliance is not necessarily the healthy thing right now in our country. We have to fact check, we have to verify, we have to maintain some humanity. We have to look at the consequences of all these executive orders, find out what's going on and what the impact's going to be. And I think the American public generally is a very compassionate people. They've been historically known for a tremendous amount of charitable work, not just in this country, but around the world. And I think that they would do the right thing, but I'm not sure people always get the right information or they don't get all of it. What are your thoughts?
Scott, would you like to go first?
Well, it goes against my ladies first mentality, but uh, sure. Not really much to say. I don't really follow the day-to-days of like executive orders, but I just think that there is sorry, that there, you know, there is a just and equal way of doing things, and then there is pretentious and dangerous way of doing things. And I think every president in the history of this country has came to that edge of that line, and some have crossed and some haven't. And I just worry about what's next, down the road. I worry if it's a trend or if it's just a fad in presidencies.
Good point.
Well, here's what I think. I think, like Evelyn just said, it's exhausting. There's only so many times that the normal person, and when I say normal, that could be anything, but that an average person, I guess I should say, can have the same argument with 800 different people. And this is where social media makes it so difficult, is that someone tweets out some misinformation or disinformation, and 1.2 million people see it. Then someone comes in the comments and corrects it, and only 2,000 people see that. So the 1.2 million who saw the misinformation or the disinformation go on about their way. They never check back in on the stream to find out what the truth of it is, or what the how it's been spun for whatever purpose necessary. And then those of us who care about truth and being well informed, we get tired of having the same argument with 800 different people at different times, because nobody is listening to one source, which we've always had a choice of sources for our media and all that, but we didn't have an overabundance of sources. So say a newspaper like the New York Times printed something that was misinformed or just outright wrong. The next day in the paper, they would print a retraction or a correction or whatever, and most of the people would see that. And so you didn't have to have that argument with, a person on the bus and a person at work and 12 people on your Twitter feed. And, you didn't have to keep having the same argument. With the way social media is and the short attention spans, most people don't go back to check things. They go on what they hear immediately. And yes, those of us that it matters to are exhausted.
Right. Well, we live in an information overload age, don't we? I mean, all the information at our fingertips. But I did a little video recently about the attention span of human beings are 8.5 seconds compared to a goldfish, which is 9 seconds, which sounds funny, but scary, right? I mean,
Right.
So whatever length of time we have, every moment seems critical, or we lose people. And, I hope for better. I would hope that we have people who have patience, who have the willingness to see things through, work hard, and do their due diligence, really. We have this information age, like I said, is on overload, but there's so much information at our fingertips. But we don't know which is the right information. And I think we all see that, right? So many people
Right.
they're firm believers. They'll die for the cause. They'll break into the halls of Congress and hang the vice president they believe so strongly. And I'm not being facetious one bit. I don't have any doubt that the people who did what was done on January 6th believed 100% in what they did. The question is, did they get all the information that would help them make a good choice? And I would say no. I think every side of every issue needs to look at the bigger picture. All of us do.
Right. And I feel like a lot of what's happening now, too, and this may be what Evelyn was alluding to also, is that it feels like we're fighting a lot of the same fights that we already fought and won, such as, women's rights, as far as abortion and things like that, civil rights, immigration laws, things like that. Things that we've already decided on are being brought back up, and we're having to fight them again. And that gets tiring.
It really does.
And there are people who truly believe, because they've heard it, that your child gets off the bus in the morning, walks into the school as a girl, and when you pick them up that afternoon, now they're a boy. It just doesn't happen. But there's in the misinformation, disinformation arena, there's a rule that you say something 3 times, you don't apologize for it, and you never admit that you were wrong or that you're lying. And that's the way you get people to believe misinformation or disinformation. And so you see a lot of that happening now. Even when faced with the truth in someone's face, when they say, January 6th, I didn't see, these people who are being pardoned, and they're saying, well, I don't know, I didn't see that, I didn't see it, or whatever. No, you saw it, but you were told you didn't see it. You were told that enough times that you started to think, well, maybe I didn't see it. No, we all saw it. But, I'm sorry, I think a cat just hit my window. I forget where I was, that attention span thing.
Well, yeah, and believing what you hear. You were talking about that.
Yeah. And the Haitian immigrant thing, you never admit that you were wrong. And we see a lot of misdirection with that. You can ask a question as directly as possible. Trump has been asked directly. You think it's wrong, right, to attack law enforcement officers. Oh yeah, and he'll say that. But then when you say, well, these people you pardoned, the one guy stun gunned in the neck a law enforcement officer 6 times, causing him to have a heart attack, and they took him hostage. So they kidnapped him, all these things. But then Trump will say, we're going to look into it. You never admit that you were wrong. You change the direction of because he'll change the direction of the conversation then with well, there are murderers who are going free and who aren't in prison. Well, we aren't talking about the murderers right now who have somehow gone free. I'm asking you a direct question, but you're never going to get a direct answer.
Right. Scott, what are your thoughts?
We talk about our sources of news, and what we have done in America is, with the creation of 24-hour news and cable news networks, is real news journalism. We're talking Walter Cronkite, Dan Rather. The last good era of journalism where news was reported as factual and emotions were left out of it, save for the time that Cronkite broke down when Kennedy was shot. But there weren't these 24-hour news shows available where the host gave out a few facts and then cried and boo-hooed all over the stage because of their opinions and their op-ed pieces. There's such a thing as a 6-hour cycle where actual new facts come. And for a long time, that's what, at least here where I live, is when we had news broadcasts. 6, 12, 6, and then 11 to recap the day. But there wasn't, when you have a job that requires you to fill 24/7 space on TV or radio, that can only be done by including your own opinion and your bias, which disqualifies them from being called journalists. And now they're not even reporters. They're just op-ed, broadcasters. And that's where we've gotten a lot of this basis of, here's the facts, but then here's my opinion. And then coupled with the instantaneous need for information from the internet, we make 8-second decisions for a 6-hour news cycle, because TikTok, our attention span, like you said, is 8 seconds or so. And no one reads an article. They read a headline. We don't research. We don't do a lot of questioning. We just, most people just look at a headline and go, yeah, okay, well, that must be true. They printed it. There's no journalism anymore.
Right. And I agree with that. I actually did a stream about that, about how this 24-hour news has changed the way news is presented. And you are exactly right. It's become more of opinion and bias because they have time for that. Back when you got the news, 3 or 4 times a day, it was get in there, say, be succinct, say what the facts are, and you go on to the next story, because people needed to get their entire news in that half-hour or 1-hour spot. Now we have time for people to sit around and give their opinions. Back in the days of media, from when I grew up anyway, I'm 54, so the 70s and 80s, very, very rarely would you ever know where a reporter stood on an issue. And if you did, it was like a 5-minute spot that they got on the show for op-ed. Or in a newspaper, it was, just inside the front page or whatever, they got a little chunk of space for an op-ed. And that was it.
And you had to go look for that. It wasn't thrown at you. The op-eds
Right.
in my papers, at least, were in the back, where you had to go look for it after you got the news. And as you went through the paper, they put it in like importance, prioritized of what they thought was important that their readers needed to hear. Like war was front page, some tragedy was always front page, and then in the back there was op-ed, which
Right. See,
nowadays,
I said inside
especially,
the front page. I didn't even know where it was.
yeah, I mean, you had
Because
to really look for it after everything.
Right. People didn't
Yeah.
purposely go looking for someone's opinion on something. They wanted to get their news and the facts, and that was it.
And I don't want any of these news broadcasters from any of these stations. I don't want their opinion. I wouldn't pay them for their opinion. What I want facts to make my own opinion. So all of them, regardless of their basis or their bias, whether they're conservative or liberal, they're giving us their opinion, because they don't think that we're smart enough to create our own thought process and have opinions of our own. So they hand them out for free, pretty much, if we're willing to listen.
Right. And they call it news, but that's not news,
No.
But now
News
it's
died in the
under the
80s,
mark
early 90s.
of being news. Yeah.
And everything's news now. I mean, if I get a bright yellow vest and put press on it and take my phone and record, I'm media, I'm press, no, I'm not. I'm a videographer or a photographer, but I can't report the news because I don't have facts. When you run into let's say a big crash happens on the freeway and I stop and start taking photos and videos, I'm not reporting anything. I'm just a videographer. I'm not press. you have to have facts to back up your video and your photography, and you can only get facts by being there and asking questions, reporting and interviewing and getting information. And no one really does that anymore. None of them really give that information because they're too busy trying to fill time slots.
Well, and doesn't that bring us to another point too, is that it used to be that television news anchors and reporters, that was a respected job position. And now it's like anyone can throw on that press thing. And I just feel like it's done a disservice. Like Walter Cronkite, I mean, you would have never seen him behaving in the ways that you see people behaving. And it goes on to our government. When did our government become a source of entertainment? I don't want to be entertained by my government. I don't want to see the drama of government and these people who have taken up congressional seats and stuff, who are simply there to cause drama. You know, I thought it was kind of neat at first. The guy, I can't think of his name right off the top of my head. I'm terrible with names. But the guy who shows up to the congressional hearings and all that stuff in his shorts and hoodie, you know, it was
John
funny at
Fetterman.
first and all. Who is that?
John Fetterman, the senator.
Yeah.
Fetterman, yeah,
Fetterman.
Pennsylvania.
But I think
He showed up
there's
to the inauguration that way.
yeah. Isn't there like a level of where, and you know, I don't consider myself to be a stickler for tradition and all that. But honestly, it seems like it really disrespects the role that you're supposed to be providing for the people, your constituents. I'm not saying you have to wear a fancy suit or something, but could you just throw on, you know, a button up and some sort of tie, or maybe some khaki shorts, dress shorts, you know, something. Just take a little time to show a little respect. That's why all of a sudden we have all these people in our government who think it's like, you know, okay to act out. I don't know if I'm saying it the way I mean to.
Well,
I just
yeah, you are, and I get it.
I
But the
just think that
media
there should be a
showcases
respect for the positions.
There should be, yeah, but the media showcases this behavior and plays it over and over again. So now he sees that as, look at me, I've got your attention, and I've got the people's attention, and everyone's laughing, and I'm in the spotlight. So yeah, thank you, media. But there should be tradition. Tradition's important for those who it's important to. And when it's not important to enough people, then tradition seems to be casted aside.
Well, yeah, and it becomes a joke. You know, when you have someone, like I said, news reporter and anchorman used to be a respected position. Those were the people we looked to get our information and to give us our sense of what was going on in the world. And if you can't take those people seriously, because now you got people calling themselves reporters who are standing outside of people's houses, you know, with bullhorns for YouTube content, and they have a press pass. It's a joke, right? So when you have a guy showing up for the inauguration in his athletic shorts and a hoodie, we've made a joke of the position. And how can I feel like confident that you really understand the enormity of the decisions in your hands? Not that the suit makes you any better at the job, but at least it gives us the feeling that, hey, this guy takes my life seriously.
Well, I think you've seen an exchange, a reversal of the value of emotion, where the rarity was Walter Cronkite breaking down when Kennedy was shot. He showed emotion. He took off his
Right.
glasses. He wiped away a tear. Now it's every single day. People get so highly emotional, and they yell, and they get very frustrated and angry, and they cry, and they have like meltdowns on 24-hour news. And the people that run our government have no emotion except selfishness. Where anything that has to do with them, they show emotion before caring, and for the looking out for their fellow human being. And if they're not part of their little group, there's no emotion involved. It's a reversal that's dangerous, because if a favorite newscaster cries or throws a fit, then everyone gets behind them. We shouldn't be getting behind media. Media is not. Media shouldn't be the hero of the story. They shouldn't be the story, but they've become the story for at least the last 25 years, with this integration of we have to be everywhere all the time. And it's what's caused people to side with media. Media should be the neutral party, and they're not.
Agreed. And also, like I said, everyone's interested in the government now because they like the drama of it and it's entertaining. But I don't like that it's entertaining. I want to go back to the days where, you were completely bored by politics, and the only reason you watched it is because you wanted to learn about something. You wanted to find out what was going on, not because you wanted to see so-and-so call so-and-so, a broke down blonde, whatever. Even though, you know what, I felt good in that moment. I was like, yeah, you tell her, but that's not what I want my government to be.
No, because eventually that government might turn on you and call you that, and treat you or the people you love that way. We we have a bad start. All these candidates, remember where they start from. They start in our neighborhoods, in our schools, in our churches, and in our social groups. We're not importing presidents because it's against the Constitution. This is our homegrown recipe, and this is where it's coming from. All of our influential people, whether it's in the government or sports, politics, news, we're growing this. This is what we're producing with our society. So it is a reflection of us, but there's some things that are totally out of our control, and some things that we don't want to take responsibility for if we could.
Well, I tend to see myself as quite a liberal person, especially, in social aspects. But sometimes they got me feeling like an elitist because, like I just said, I don't like that Fetterman shows up in shorts and a hoodie for the inauguration. That makes me feel some kind of way. Like, well, it doesn't matter what. Inside, I'm like, it doesn't matter what you wear. You can still be good at your job. Just like it doesn't matter if you didn't graduate from high school. You can still be really good at your job. But they got me feeling like an elitist because now all of a sudden, these are the people that are running our country. And I do feel some kind of way about someone, who didn't graduate from high school being in a position, or someone who's a felon now. We've got people who can't get into government housing because they've been in prison for something, or they've been convicted of a felony because they have to check the box, and they have to check the box on job applications. But now the highest job in the land and the biggest government subsidized house in the land are, with a felon. So can all felons now live in government subsidized housing? And can we take that box off all job applications? They've got me feeling like I can't be the liberal that I have so long loved to be. I feel bad about myself because I feel like I'm getting really judgy.
That's what they want, though.
Oh,
They
well,
want
they're
you to
doing a
feel
good
bad
job
about
then. They're doing a good job then. Because I was always the one who's like, just because you have a felony doesn't mean you can't be a good employee, or it doesn't mean that you can't be a good renter or whatever. But it's like they're turning everything upside down and gaslighting the crap out of people to make us think that what we always thought was like backwards or something. I feel like a bad liberal.
Well, what about the issue of the rise of racism, xenophobia, sexism, and a lot of other isms? What about the clearly the 800-pound gorilla in the living room? Did we not think that maybe we've moved beyond that as a society? And now it's
Yeah,
back.
that's another thing that I was saying, was a fight that we already fought, and now here we are having to fight it again. I thought we had all gotten to the point where we agreed that human is human, and none of those differences in race or in uh, the location of your birth or whatever made any difference. I thought we had all finally agreed to that and gotten past that and had put laws and reforms in place that kept that from happening. When we were talking about DEI earlier, that's another thing that now I am like, so in a perfect world, DEI is not necessary. And I thought that's where we had already gotten to. And I, as a liberal, I sit there and I think, well, we need DEI because it's not fair to some people who are qualified for jobs. And so if you make it where they have to have, so many or whatever, but come on, then you get to the other side of that coin where people are getting jobs based on the thing that you're saying shouldn't matter, which is their race or their gender or whatever, because if you have to hire 4 women for every 10 men, then there's possibly 4 men out there with the merit or the resume who aren't getting the job because you needed to put 4 women in those positions. And it's crazy making to have to think of this, and these were things that we had already fought. I thought we had already agreed on, and here we are again.
Well, I mean, these are basic things. Are all human beings equal in the eyes of the Creator? I would say probably, but not in the eyes of human beings. And I thought we may have evolved a little bit beyond that. We've been around a long time, 1 million years or more, standing upright, and we're still struggling with which tribe we belong to, who gets to be a part of it, who's bad, who's good, who's functional, who's dysfunctional. But, just in pointing to one particular resource, which would be what we call the Bible, I don't see that that kind of bias from Jesus at all. In fact, I see him taking on that bias. But what really worries me is, and the National Council of Churches would agree, is Christian nationalism. I mentioned earlier I did a video about that, and I'm really concerned that they're now trying to make inroads, and they have with politicians, because there's something in it for them, and there's something in it for the politicians as well. And how much stronger is your case when you feel that God is on your side? The reality, I think, for most people who have their faith screwed on right is that God isn't on any side. There's a general theme of oneness and respect, and that there's no rejects in the kingdom that Jesus promoted. So, I think we're going to have a battle out here with faith being part of and our understanding of faith. That's why I wanted to play the younger biblical scholar who I have a great deal of respect for, McClellan. There are others as well. I had another clip I was thinking about playing, but I think the whole battlefield is going to also take place within churches. So it's going to get very interesting. But I'm not. I'm one who believes in data, not dogma, and it's important to. If the data within our belief system or any holy book we have or any constitution or Magna Carta or whatever you believe in, we have to understand that properly, those sources properly. And I really don't think that, I think we've had a real bastardization of them. And, if they actually think they're going to overturn the 1964 Civil Rights Act, boy, I'll tell you, Canada's looking pretty attractive.
Unless they give in and become our 51st state.
Yeah, no. We can't handle the people we have now. Let's not add to it.
And that has been what I have been saying. Why do we want Greenland and Canada work on, perfect what we already have, and then worry about taking on some more people to take care of and land and, all the issues that come with a bigger area to defend and to, to make prosperous. We haven't perfected this one yet.
No.
We
I have
still
a
have
quick
people
story to share.
here. And go ahead.
I'm sorry. We were talking about isms and the phobias that bother us today. And I remember talking to my dad probably back in the 80s when things were happening and we were always talking about the news. He would always watch the evening news and we talked about things. And he says, you never know the extent of something until a tool comes around or you're shown the vastness of the problem. So his example was he was stationed in Korea at the end of World War II. What he knew as an 18-year-old was this is our area where this is what we're doing. He didn't know about anything else because they didn't have communications with. You didn't know what you couldn't look up on your phone and say, "Oh, there's bombing in all these other places, and they're going after this." He knew where he was, and then afterwards, he learned about the extent of the war when he came back home and read about it and heard about it. But that tool wasn't available to him. Today, we have a tool to understand the extent of racism, xenophobia, homophobia, all these things that are dividing us. It's the internet. And we now see that the injustices we fought back, one, they always need to be fought against. They're never going to go away. It's a continuing battle. But now we see the extent and we see exactly how large of a problem it is. But back in 1964, through the 70s, we only saw what we saw. And the people that, the racists and the xenophobes and all these groups didn't have the tool to show us who they were. So it's kind of like a give and take with information where we see now exactly who you are and the problem's way bigger than we ever thought it was. So we have to fight it and we have to battle it a different way and be more aggressive towards it if we want to push it back.
I would agree. And that brings up the idea that again, fighting fights we've already fought. I thought we all agreed that Nazis were bad. My grandfather fought in World War II, and we all decided that they were bad. But yet, just a couple days ago, we're being told we didn't see what we saw from Elon Musk, and just the ability of people to stick their heads in the sand and say that that's not what that was. It's an affront to everyone. World War II wasn't so long ago that most of us didn't have a grandparent who could recall it for us. And we have people out there who are telling us that it didn't happen the way that it happened. And there are people who genuinely believe that the Holocaust was not a thing. Yet we have people who can sit and tell us that it was. It's mind-boggling.
Well, there are some very disgusting, ugly historical realities that some people, I suppose, don't want to face. The atrocities that went on in Auschwitz and Dachau and Buchenwald, all the death camps, is a horror beyond even imagination. And as far as Antifa I'll mention, Janie, is anti-fascism, Antifa. And my dad fought in World War II at the Battle of the Bulge in Germany and Belgium, and they were fighting against a fascist dictator. They were the original Antifa, the United States Army, and all the Allied armies as well. The original Antifa. It's like, do people not get this? But I do believe that our mind can be twisted. I did want to mention too about conditioning your mind. I think that went on in prisoner of war camps, certainly, and it can go on anywhere. If someone's convincing enough, they can be a pretty good brainwasher. But are they telling the truth? Is it something where we lose the ability to think for ourselves? And I'm wondering if that's happening now. I'm concerned about addiction and compulsivity. It's not just the people on Kensington Avenue in Philadelphia with their terrible drug addiction. It's people who are addicted to power and people who are addicted to control and even addicted to violence as their go-to methodology for dealing with things. So I'm very concerned about addiction. I think that people are easily swayed. Who was it? Was it Hitler? He said, "If I can lie repeatedly over and over again, and eventually that lie will become seated within someone's mind who's hearing it." And
yeah, that's where the idea that saying something 3 times, never admitting that it's a lie or that it's wrong, and never and redirecting. That's where that idea comes from. It's
Right.
from Hitler's playbook. So yeah, you are correct about that. And here's the thing too, is that they know that if you, number one, keep your population uneducated or addicted or so busy trying to survive that they don't have the time or the energy to focus on other things, that they are easily controlled. And you can change the narrative. You can literally change history in people's minds. Even though they know that they saw what they saw, you are able to reconstruct their memories to something that didn't even happen. Right. Or that did happen and you don't want them to think it did.
I'm really concerned. I have a family member, and I bet all of us do, who have grabbed a hold of a conspiracy theory, or maybe multiple conspiracy theories, and have run with them. And I've talked to a family member of my own who is a fully grown adult. And I'm like shaking my head thinking, do you really believe that? And in fact, they do. And you kind of wonder how they got that way. I think that information is extremely, profoundly influential, more in ways that we don't realize. Every word, every syllable gets through and can leave an imprint within our brain. And we're either going to reject it or we're going to consider it, probably consider it, of course, and then do one of several things with it. But when it keeps coming, I think the tendency to wonder whether there's some truth in something, that's what you were saying, with Hitler especially. And then if we lose the critical ability to think for ourselves, to think objectively, that's a very dangerous place. And I think that we're getting to that place. I've heard a lot of people interviewed on all sides of these political issues, and you ask them why they believe what they believe and hold their positions, and what you get back from them is almost nonsensical. There isn't a lot of common sense in that, but they've been told, and they've run with it. And of course, that worries me. And you get certain people who are almost cult-like leaders who are going to project certain things. That's why I thought it was so important to play the video with the scripture scholar going after. I'm trying to think of his name here. Remember who it was? Oh, Ben Shapiro. Yeah. I think that was an outstanding, that's the way we have to approach it. We don't have to get emotionally bent out of shape or tear someone a new one, but it's very important that we speak the truth with firmness, but be very direct about what the facts are. Facts over opinion. They win the day, or they should. And I thought that was a wonderful example of how that can be done. But you can't do it if we're not in possession of those facts. So it's very important that we become an informed community. And I think that we can, I just have faith in a community that is willing to do the hard work and learn, educate yourself, fact check. I keep saying that, but I really believe in that.
Yeah, I agree. But, even as much as I hope to always find the actual facts, it's tiring sifting through all this stuff, We have an overabundance of misinformation to sift through. Of course, the more you practice that, the easier it gets. And things like the news site is it Ground Force or something? What was the one you put up earlier?
Oh, yes, Ground Floor, I think it was. Yeah, something like that.
Ground Force or Ground, whatever it is.
Ground News, sorry. Ground News. Ground News,
yeah,
sorry.
They are starting to make it easier because you can set your level of bias and all that,
That's right.
Or which way.
That's
and
right.
So you can still look through things that are, I guess, a little more palatable to the way you lean and still expect to get facts. But even with Facebook pulling out of fact checking now, I know a lot of people complained about it or whatever, but it did make it easier for people who don't necessarily have the time or the patience or the attention span to go looking to see that little thing under a Facebook post that said, this has been proven, whatever, and a link to show whatever. Made it a lot easier for people. And now Facebook has backed out of that. So, 2 steps forward, 3 steps back.
Yeah, I was disappointed. I mentioned earlier, McDonald's caved in, Target caved in, Walmart caved in. There's a growing list of corporations that were standing firmly with DEI, and now they've caved in. And I think integrity is something that whether you know you're among the majority or not, you have to maintain that, or what do you call what you possess, you know? You have to believe in something and then stand firm even when times get turbulent, I guess. But I don't see that with corporate America.
So what
You
did
know,
they change on?
well, they were involved in the DEI information being used to uh, promote jobs and opportunities for people in minority positions to
Oh, okay, but
find.
DEI. I thought you said AI.
Oh, no, DEI, yeah,
Okay, DEI.
right,
All
right.
right. All right, that makes sense now because I was like, what were they doing with AI?
I hope I didn't say AI, yeah.
No, you probably did say DEI, but I just didn't hear you right.
Oh, no problem, yeah. Well, I mean, AI is important too. We have the information available to us. The truth is out there, as they say, but we really have to sift through it. And that's why I think like these fact-checking sites and different sites, like my preference is Ground News because it gives you all sides of everything. You know, the Israel-Hamas conflict, immigration, Trump, all of it. And you can dip into the left and the right and the middle and come up with
Yeah,
your own understanding.
yep.
I mean,
Are you
there are
still there?
people, yeah, Scott.
I sure am.
Oh, good, good.
Okay, just wanted to be sure.
Yeah, please jump in
I just
if
want
you
to.
like.
I get. Well, I got to go here in a bit, but um, I did want to say that we're the society of the amygdala now.
Hmm.
We we fight, flight, or freeze in reaction to everything. We used to be a frontal lobe society where logic and reasoning. And I kind of joking with someone a couple years ago. I said the reason the aliens don't come up and say hi to us is because we're not a frontal lobe society. We don't reason. We don't have logic. We fear. The first thing we think about when aliens come down, our reaction is going to be shoot them out of the sky. We base everything now on fear, and there's a group of people in the world that depend on that. They need you to focus on your amygdala and react from that part of your brain rather than reason it out. Take time to think something through. And with an instantaneous society, it's a good combination where we don't give enough thought and time to something, and we're suffering, and our children are suffering for it, and our seniors are not being heard because they've seen this before. It's a cycle. There's cycles of fear and frustration, and our elders today have seen this before. We're just not listening. So,
That's a
Stellar,
good.
thanks for having me up.
Oh, no
I gotta
problem,
jump
Scott.
down, but thank you.
Thank you for being up here. I appreciate all your thoughts, especially your last one. That's we evolved that out of the reptilian brain into the contemporary one, the frontal lobe part, where we can have reason and rationale. And I'm not fond of saying, but I hope we're not going in the wrong direction with evolution. It sounds like we
And I
might be.
think along with that comes wanting to be instant gratification now. We think that we need a solution right this second. Like, don't take time to think about it. If you see something that seems suspicious or whatever, like you said, if you see an alien aircraft, shoot it out of the sky. Where before we'd be like, well, are we sure that's an alien aircraft? If it is, does it mean us harm? Is there any way we can communicate? nobody wants to take the time to stop and be logical or rational. We think we need instant solutions, even in, disagreements with our friends and family. We feel like we have to have an instant answer for everything. And I wish we could go back to the days where it was okay to tell people, well, I don't really know how I feel about that right now. Let me get back to you on that when I've had a chance to think about it and to, look it up. See, everyone wants to know how you feel about something right now. And I think that makes us very dangerous.
I do too. One distinction that I've heard made that I think is pretty important. If we're driving our automobile and we have someone cuts us off and road rage is a potential response, that's usually happening in what some people call the reptilian brain, where it's fight, flight, kill or be killed, revenge or not. But our mothers told us to count to 10 so we can flip back into the more evolved brain that uses common sense and good reasoning and hopefully compassion and things like that. I think that we're in a society right now where people are fearful. Fear does not bring about the best results, and fear, until we can set that aside a little bit and think through the problems we have in our nation. Fear is a very strong indicator, if we operate out of fear, that we're going to move in the direction that's going to be impulsive and probably very detrimental for a lot of folks. And I just see that happening right now. I think a lot of people are afraid, well, all these people coming into our country, we will drain the system, drain the resources. We will not have Social Security. It'll all run out. We're going to have too much violence. We have this, that, and the other thing. And yet, when we look at the actual facts, and that's what we have to do, we have to look at the facts. But before we can look at them, we have to find them. And there are resources to find them. Again, I appeal to fact checking and other sources that are there. It's in the minority position. If you want to listen to your favorite podcaster, fine. But we just saw a podcaster destroyed, Ben Shapiro, by someone who knew the data, the data that was correct. And I just think that's, yeah.
And you know what? I think that's another thing that makes it difficult for people in the time of social media now, is that it's okay to like someone who is wrong. It's okay if he's your favorite podcaster and someone can sit there and take down his points one by one with facts and for you to still listen to him. I don't understand why we have to think that we have to agree with everyone that we find entertainment value in, or maybe not even entertainment value, but just that we enjoy listening to. I actually enjoy listening to people that I completely disagree with. Number one, because it makes me use my brain. Because I can sit there and one by one go through and point out why they're wrong in my head, not to their face, of course, because we're not together in the same setting. And that in itself strengthens my ability to think critically and to seek the facts, to look up information, to fact check. And it strengthens my resolve that I feel the way I feel for a reason. I don't know if I don't think most people do enjoy listening to people that they disagree with, but I do, because I find it makes me a stronger analytical thinker, that I can continue to hear someone's opinions on things, point out to myself why that's not right, back it up with facts, and still come out of it feeling like it was a pretty good experience.
Right. how often do you hear someone say, well, I thought about this side and I thought about that side and I came to my own conclusion. Uh, I'm not so sure. I think that's pretty rare. When I used to do adult education, I would tell people, look, if you're going to sit in the classroom thinking, I'm going to wait until I hear what I want you to come around to what I always believe anyway. And when I hear that, I'm going to go, yay, that's the truth. We have to put aside our biases, our preconceived notions, or learning isn't even possible. I think fear is one of the
Right.
biggest obstacles, yeah, to doing that. I think thinking for yourself, we've been told our whole lives how to think and we need to when we're young by our parents and grandparents and teachers, but there's a point that comes when we have to think for ourselves. And I don't believe in any way that a lot of Americans, there are some, but there's an awful lot of Americans who still do not think for themselves, that their mind is not objectively open. They say don't open your mind so much your brains fall out, but that's far from where a lot of people are at. Uh, I think a lot of people are looking for an easy, quick fix, and they're going to listen to someone who maybe they can identify with. These issues are complex. These aren't
Right.
necessarily simple. But
Right.
I think that there are. I mentioned before, back in the 60s and 70s, when I was much younger, Congress used to make compromises for the good of the country, and I'm not so sure that people want to do that anymore. There were bills that could have been passed by Congress, but were not passed for political reasons, which in fact both sides wanted, but they refused to do it because it would make perhaps a better outcome in the election with more of one side or the other political party winning. Uh, so I think that we have to find a way. If anything, let's start with a generation of young people that learn what integrity is, that learn what honesty is and truthfulness, and realize that those values should serve us our entire lives. And sure, people who compromise those, you might land a job because people are looking for yes people, but you have to live with yourself. And I think that's a big compromise. I hope most people won't do, but I would love to see it start younger. And I'd love to see people being taught conflict resolution courses so we don't turn to violence. Uh, courses in
That was
school.
that
Go
was a
ahead.
big thing back in the 80s and 90s when I was in school and when I was working teaching mental health and life. Uh, I can't think of the word I want. Life skills in the 80s and 90s was teaching people conflict resolution, de-escalation, um, and shoot. I'm sitting here looking at that fire on the screen and it's mesmerizing me. Hold on, let me close my eyes. Um, conflict resolution, de escalation, and then, oh, I lost, I lost the word. Um, anyway, it was a big thing back then, and you rarely see classes offered on those skills anymore, which is surprising because if we could use anything right now, um, you would think we could use some de-escalation techniques and more conflict resolution skills. So much now is all, here's what we're going to do. I win, you lose. That's it. Instead of learning that there are ways to resolve a conflict where both parties come out feeling satisfied. Maybe not to the extent that they would have if they had gotten everything they wanted, but where nobody had to lose for someone else to win.
Well, that's right. I absolutely agree. we have learned recently with January, was it 6th, when the Capitol was, I think that might is not always right. Might and violence brings very bad results. We could look at the history within our own country. It wouldn't be hard to do. And there are the proponents of peaceful procedures like Martin Luther King Jr. and others. And I just think that we are losing sight of those now. We don't have to be victorious through violence, but we can be victorious by being persuasive and being understanding and by being patient and willing to hear everyone out. And I don't think that's going on at all. I think that's very, very important. I was so disappointed when the bishop in Washington, D.C., who I can't think of one syllable I would have changed from what she said, was looked at in such negative tones. It's like, I guess what it
She
tells me
didn't
is
apologize, did she?
no. What would there be to apologize for? I
Well,
couldn't
I
think of
know that
anything.
they were demanding an apology from her, and I had not been following. Today I haven't seen anything or went looking for anything, but I was sitting there thinking, please do not apologize for
No,
speaking the teachings of Christ in a church. You
right.
know, uh, any other time, they want the teachings of Christ taught in schools. We have the separation of church and state. All these fundamentalists really want that put in churches with the Ten Commandments and all these kind of things. Church is the place for it. And to say that they demand an apology for her teaching those principles in the place where they should be taught was just ridiculous.
Well, yeah. I mean, if they want the Ten Commandments in schools, then maybe put them in the halls of Congress, because bearing false witness and lying is happening every single day, every hour on the hour in the halls of Congress, and they're lying to the
Exactly.
American people. I mean, put Matthew
But they shouldn't
25.
be in either
What's
place.
that? The
I
what?
said, but they shouldn't. The Ten Commandments shouldn't be in either place because of
Well,
the
no,
separation of church
no,
and state.
that,
But I'm just saying,
exactly.
yes, I
Yeah,
understand your point.
yeah. I mean, it's you can't have it both ways. I think this country clearly, and the Constitution bears that out, is founded upon the protection of both uh, of church and state. And it was a very delicate thing. They knew all too well, coming from where the migration came from Europe over here and other places. And it's just, welcome back, Scott. Uh, we Are we going to forget that part of history? The same thing is being repeated. We have waves of immigration that really have never stopped in this country since it was founded.
Right.
We've had waves of Pacific Island, of Asian immigration, and recently from Haiti and other places, Central America. But we were once people in a foreign land as well, seeking a life that's worth living. Just amazing to me. If you want to consider the native population, the original population, they were forgiving and compassionate enough and respectful enough not to deport us. When you think of it, of course, what
Right.
might we came over with more people and more armies and more weapons to put down the original people. But it's interesting to think about that. What if we were told to go home? Because this was not our
Well,
original home.
and that's the thing is that there was no set. When they came here, they really felt like, they had some, and I don't say this to be cruel or to sound awful, but they really felt like they were working with some true dummies, because what hadn't come to this land was the idea uh, that there were borders or a way to own the land. That wasn't part of the native culture. Nobody owned the land. And so when they came over with these concepts of boundaries and ownership of a parcel of land, that was such a foreign concept that they really thought, hey, we've got these suckers right where we want them.
Right. Well, I mean, it's sad. The Christian faith has been guilty of what's known as proselytizing, where we think we have a corner on the truth and we're going to force everyone else to believe the way we do. Like the old joke about the Baptists, we're going to hold you underwater until you come around to our way of thinking. But the reality is, the Native American wisdom, Native American religion and mysticism, and other religions, obviously, as well, have been so important to really mankind becoming an evolving species or creature for the better and not the worse. But sometimes, and that's why I fear Christian nationalism. I absolutely, and I'm so glad to see the National Council of Churches come out condemning it with no uncertain terms, because that's a bastardization of the Christian faith. To, as you were saying earlier, to try to put, you can try to put a Bible in every classroom or every hotel room, but we're not filled with Christians. This country is a real salad bowl of diversity with all kinds of people. Where do we get off thinking, that ours is the only faith that should be followed? Well, that's what some are advocating. And that
Right.
sends shivers down your spine when you think of it, because we went through, a period of enlightenment. We went through a period of a very dark period where the church was persecuting and burning people at the stake. We've had many. The word escapes me. But when we send people to go to wars, fighting in various places, especially the Middle East, and I think that it's important that we, climb down off our high place and realize that, the hallmark of all faith really is oneness, and every one of us is to be accepted, and there's no rejects. And I see an awful lot of rejection, an awful lot of racism, the ugly head of xenophobia and sexism, and all kinds of concerns that people have, that we're not white enough, we're not male enough, we're not this or that. And, I don't think we're going to be better off by sending more Swedes here, or, any more Norwegians. They're wonderful people, by the way. But I think that we need diversity. And I think that's what will make this country and continue to be a very, very important part of the world community. But if we fall into the trap of circling the wagons and making America a place for just a few, and the ones that we approve of, then we're going backwards in time. And I would worry about that. That we've seen that happened in Nazi Germany. I don't want to see people deported, put on trains. I don't want to see people end up in horrible places. That's what it worries me.
Right. And I saw today where they were putting migrants on military planes and sending them to Guatemala. I think they said they had 85 or 90, and then they were going to make a stop somewhere else and pick up more. And I understand. I mean, all the reasons why people shouldn't be here and all that makes sense. Okay. Like, we have to take care of our own people. And, like I was saying about, Greenland and Canada, until we've perfected what we already have, why would we take on more? But these people, are so desperate that certainly there's something better than sending them back to what is their certain death.
Absolutely.
I just, there is a better option than just packing them on a plane. And, a lot of them, when they get back where they're going, they're immediately going to leave again, because if they are there, they will die.
Well, there's specifically an example of that would be in Haiti Haiti has gone through an assassination of their president. It's completely chaotic over there. It's not safe to be in an airport or really in most places. Drug gangs and cartels are running the country. So you talk about sending Haitians back home, what, to die with take your children back home and die? You know,
Right.
the same sort
Yeah.
of oppression has gone on many places where people who look a little more like us came here for that freedom and we welcomed them.
Hmm.
Why aren't we welcoming others? And I
Right.
think those are the challenges in front of us. You know, the United States is not the only country embracing those who've become refugees. All kinds of nations, you know, look at Europe, for example. There's a tremendous, I think England, for example, has a higher percentage of people, and that's a very small country in terms of size, has embraced a much higher percentage of migrants than we have. And I just think that, you know, this country has, yeah, Russia is now paying people to have 10 or more children. Did you know that?
I
Russia is
had
the
no
largest
idea.
land, yeah, they're the largest land country mass in the world. And they know how important it is. Of course, they've just gone to war and lost a million soldiers. Uh,
Mhm.
what an awful conversation for you and I to have. But
Isn't a
at the
lot
same,
of, I don't know a lot about the geography of Russia, but isn't a lot of it unlivable?
well, there are people living in Siberia. There's some wonderful YouTube videos about people who live there. Um, you know, I lived in northern BC for a year, and it was 45 below zero for about 10 days. So people adapt. It's an amazing thing. I was driving a school bus in northern British Columbia for a year, and I was very young, and there wasn't a day that we called for cold weather. Everything's plugged in, and everything keeps moving. Um, and they adapt. People, humans are very adaptable. You know, you have to exercise more caution when you, certainly when you're dealing with the weather can kill you. You have to be very careful. But yeah, no, it's livable. It's just a different type of life.
Well, it's been below freezing here for about 6 days, and I'm feeling like it's becoming unlivable here in Texas. So I don't know how you live. And I was raised in Iowa, where it gets really cold
Oh yeah,
and uh, and lots of snow and all of that. But as I have gotten older, the cold feels different, you know.
right.
And I don't know how people can stand it.
Well, I don't know. I heard someone mention just the other day, I'd rather have this cold because when the heat comes, you know, you can't get cool enough. It's I can always bundle up. I think that's a preference, of course, but
True, true.
you know,
Yeah, I mean, I definitely wouldn't want to be without my AC when it's hot, but it's easier for me as I've gotten older to get cooled off than it is for me to get warmed up.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
But you were saying that they're paying people to have 10 or more kids in Russia now.
Yeah, I forget if it was 10 or 12. I think Putin he put that out to his public. Um, you know, they have a very large land mass. They have plenty of room. They're lacking for workers now. You know, a lot of even the Russian army, Russia has a lot of diversity in its ethnicity, and a lot of people are being brought. Well, look, even northern North Korea, right? So you've got,
Yeah,
well, I mean, I'm not sure I am happy about the reason why they want to have big families, but there is a real pragmatic reason behind it.
right.
Oh, look at Seeds of Freedom, several days over 43. Alexa, what is 43 centigrade in Fahrenheit?
43 degrees Celsius is 109.4 degrees Fahrenheit.
109.4. Uh,
Eek.
that's like living in Dubai.
We
You
had
know what?
some temps like that this past summer.
109.4. Yeah, it's like Death Valley. Wow. Yeah, Cass, at 40 degrees, they became the same. That I remember that. At 40, it's 40 Fahrenheit and Celsius. That's the meeting point. I always remember that 20 degrees Celsius is 68 room temperature. But 43 is damn hot, I'll tell you. That's like living on the surface of the sun almost. Not quite. 49.5, the
Well,
highest. Wow.
I think I'm going to jump down off of here, but it's been a good conversation again.
Oh, I'm so happy when you come up. Janie, thank you
That's
so
2 times
much.
in a row where I feel like I've gotten some really good conversation, and I love a good conversation, a
Yeah.
thinking conversation, you know?
Well, and I think we're open to hearing all sides of the issue. Right now, we're going to hear sides from one perspective a lot, and we should hear as much of the views that are out there to give us, a way to come to our own decision making and thinking, hopefully.
Yeah.
Well,
And
well,
like I
Janie,
said, I
yeah,
enjoy listening to people that I disagree with, but, it is nice to know that I can also speak with people who agree with me so that I don't feel like a total outcast.
yeah,
Um, and I think you and I agree with more than we disagree. I don't even know if I disagree with you on anything, but I would imagine we do at some point. But yeah, it's nice to have both. So
Well, I can tell
always
you
wonder.
one, Janie, I can tell you one thing where we might have a disagreement. One thing, one thing only. Will the Iowa Hawkeyes defeat the Nebraska Cornhuskers in football?
I don't know. It has been
No.
so long since I've been in Iowa that I have lost all context for how they're doing or anything. But one thing I will say is that the Bengals still rock, and that's from my time
Yeah,
in Ohio.
yeah, the Bengals
So
do
even though
rock.
they didn't make the Super Bowl, I still love my Bengals.
Yep. Well, I'm not real happy with Iowa right now because of what they did to Indiana and Notre Dame. But you know what? It's a one-time thing, and next year everybody will forget and look for the next one.
Yep, they start over. So
Yeah, Iowa's had good
I was
football.
told football.
What's that?
Uh, he said I was told football was over.
That's right. Well, we still
Football
have the
is never
championship.
over.
Yeah, we
Football
won't get
is
this.
never over.
No, in fact, February we'll get the Super Bowl. So it's
That's
I was
right. And
watching.
then we have to worry about the draft, and we have to
That's
worry about training camp.
that's right. Yeah, I
It
was
never
watching. It never ends. I was watching hockey last night, and my team, the good guys, they didn't win, but they're doing okay.
You know what I was sitting thinking today is that I want to do fantasy government. Like
Oh,
people do fantasy football. I want
right.
to run fantasy governments, like where we can draft our picks for Secretary of Labor, Secretary of State, you know, and like set up our perfect fantasy governments.
Well, that's a
But I
real.
don't
I
know how
like
we
that.
would score it. Wouldn't
Well,
that be
it make
fun?
yeah. Well, look, you got me thinking about that because it's like, hey, maybe we'll learn something. It's like a test
Right.
drive without any of the dangers or pitfalls or yeah, I like that.
If you can figure out some of the logistics of how it would be scored and all of that, let's do it. Because I was like pulling stuff. I'm like, I want to do a fantasy government. And I was pulling up things for uh, cabinet members and thinking about who I'd want in what position and all this stuff. If
Right.
you can figure out how to do it, yeah. Evelyn says, I get Bernie. No, you cannot have my Bernie. We'll have to do a pick somehow.
That's
Let's
good.
figure it out. Figure out a way to make it competitive and how we would determine winners and all of that.
Right.
And we can do it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Anyone who's smart enough to figure out the logistics, I'm not, um, get in touch with Stellar. Don't get in touch with me because I'll just be like, what? And we'll have fantasy government.
Yeah, I like that. I really do. I think that has some real merit.
I
It's a
do
safe
too.
way to test out ideas without having, to face the consequences.
Well, I've always said I'm just the idea guy / girl. I come up with the ideas. Other people have to figure out the logistics.
Right. Well,
Stellar
hey,
gets
that-
Marjorie Taylor Greene.
oh my God. Yeah, that's I'm speechless right now. That would be a tough one. Who is that gal in Canada that used to see Russia from her window or her door? She was vice president
Oh, the
candidate.
redheaded lady.
Yeah, yeah.
She started all this crazy stuff. I can't think of
know.
her name though.
Well, I was thinking, she sounds like Mother Teresa compared to some of these others, like Taylor Greene. Oh, my God. Oh, and Lauren Boebert. Yeah, Lauren. These are scary times we live in.
Sarah Palin, yeah.
Sarah
yeah,
Palin.
Yeah.
That's right. That's right.
Someone set up the logistics and I am in. We'll do
Okay.
fantasy government.
Honestly, I think that is a really fascinating idea. I really do. And I'm surprised someone hasn't come up with it. You might get some sort of, what do they call it? Copyright thing for it or something. You should.
Well, I tell you what, Stellar, like I said, I am an idea girl. I have some of the best ideas, and I'm not just saying that because it's me. I'm saying that because I do. I have really good ideas, but I have no ability to follow through with the logistics of how it would work. So, anyone who wants to, if you can figure out the logistics, I am in. Otherwise, my idea just fizzles and dies. But I think it's a good one.
I do too. I mean that. Well, this has been delightful. We hit the 3-hour mark, and I haven't done 3 hours for 15 years. Not that long, but.
Well, I
Sid says-
appreciate it when you have these long discussions. I'm much better at speaking than typing. You all saw my typing skills.
Oh, me too.
So I'm going to hop
Absolutely.
down off of here, though, and thank you for a wonderful conversation.
All right, Janie, thanks for being here. Always enjoy. Thank you.
Love you. Bye-bye.
Love you too. Bye-bye. Seeds of Freedom says, we don't have a Taylor Greene here, but 2 doors down, they have 2 Rottweilers. Yeah, well, I think she's been referred to in the same vein as a guard dog. Yeah, I think so. Yeah, that rabbit just keeps looking for food. I don't know what it is, but insatiable appetite in that little rabbit, going down the rabbit hole, yes, like we did today. Well, you know what? I'm going to probably close out. I'll go ahead and put Roy up here. Well, it's not Roy, but it's someone who I thought did a great rendition of it. So, hey, thank you all for being here. Cass, Scott, Evelyn, Seeds. Let's see, just going back, there's so many. Thank you all for being here. I really do appreciate it. And until next time, we'll go out with the words of Roy Orbison and the voice of David Nielsen.
The summer sun went down on all of long ago, but in my heart I feel the same old afterglow. a